deep. Trees give us air so sweet. They fill our lungs with life. Breathe in long, trees storing carbon strong. Give us the gift of life. Our breathing companions are needing our help to restore Earth's good atmosphere. Breathing in carbon into their trunks, leaves, soil, and roots. Our older forests must be left here. Breathe in deep. Trees give us air so sweet. Fill our lungs with life. Breathe in long, trees storing carbon strong. Give us the gift of life.
Not that, Fergus.
I'll make this quick. My name is Fergus Marshall. I live in Chicopee. Thank you for the opportunity to give testimony today on behalf of our children and grandchildren. I wrote this testimony with very deep feelings for our children, grandchildren, and future generations. It is difficult for me to imagine what life will be like for them, only that it won't be as rich and trouble-free as it is for many of us today. It is very possible they may not even have a future, looking at many of the scenarios presented by scientists worldwide. This is particularly troubling to me because many people, including most of our leaders, lack the understanding of the natural world, only thought of the world of economics, which is the driver for all that we do. I'm not going to get into the scientific details of the debate, but one thing is clear. We need to start treating climate change, ocean acidification, species extinction, and overconsumption as a threat not only to other life forms, but also ours. If you only read 10% of the latest information from real science, you can't ignore that we are in a crisis. I know that you folks have some heavy persuasion on the other side, but the natural world does not care about it. You now have a real chance to turn things around. If we don't give our forests a chance to grow as nature intended, as natural ecosystems, we will not achieve our goals. Please support H897 for the future of our planet and the natural beauty that forests bring to us. Next generations will look back and congratulate us on the start of a new paradigm for us everywhere. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, Jim Thornley and Jonathan Ransom, is that possible?
Please.
My name is Jim Thornley from Wendell. I'm fortunate enough to live in a home that is basically surrounded completely by a state forest. Most of the people here have said everything that I needed to say. I would just like to add one thing, that the hubris of humankind dominion is just astounding, and it's about time we woke up to the fact that everything is alive, and we really have to start paying attention to all of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and others for this hearing. I'm Jonathan Von Ranson. I live in Wendell. I've been part of the Wendell State Forest Alliance. I wonder if the way I look at the car situation will resonate at all with anyone else on this committee or anywhere else. I see our civilization as having caught the wave of thousands and thousands of years of natural evolution and ridden it for quite a ways, and have degraded that wave in a way that puts us in existential difficulty, basically threatened. We're threatened with being the ones responsible for bringing things to a very unhappy conclusion here on this little planet. And I wonder if the idea of being at this moment in time has occurred to anyone as an all-hands-on-deck moment for thinking much more profoundly, much more radically about environmental protection. I would like to ask that you take that long view as well as these other wonderful comments about more immediate concerns, but many of them very deep also, that you've heard today, and make a priority of putting this bill out of committee with a very favorable vote. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate your testimony.
I want to thank everyone for
Thank
their
you.
patience. Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
very much.
Thank you. Ken Conkey and Russ Beck. Please welcome us to start. Just introduce yourself.
My name is Ken Conkey, licensed timber harvester. Really proud of what I do. And if you're familiar with what we do for loggers, if you're familiar with the definition of agriculture, you know we're farmers. We grow and harvest forest products, forest land. So this bill would be devastating to us for being able to find places to do that. We do a lot of management projects for wildlife now. This would eliminate the ability to do that. We do a lot of work in the Carlton Reservoir, where they manage for water quality and quantity for the city of Boston. That would all go away. I think that's pretty important that we're talking about Boston's water supply. I don't really understand a lot of the information we've been given here tonight about the carbon stuff. According to this bill, all this wood in this room will be laying on the fourth floor, omitting its carbon. All this wood we see has the same amount of carbon in it that they harvested. We're storing a whole bunch of carbon right here, and the trees are growing in place. Pick up right where it left off. So we're growing trees. We're growing plants to absorb carbon. We're not devastating any forests. We're providing habitat for wildlife that can't provide their own. It's just, it blows me away a little bit. The state has already gone through a visioning process, and they deemed 2/3 of public land to be left forever wild, or whatever you call it. So they've already done away with 2/3 of it. It's been years on committees studying everything here, and that's what we ended up with. So that's what we have to live with now. That was a big blow to our industry. The tens of thousands of jobs will be lost if this bill goes through. It's just going to be, people don't care, I guess, that support this. I don't see why anyone would support this. But, wise man once told me this. You never want to take any tools out of the toolbox. This throws the whole toolbox right in the harbor. So, that's my piece, I guess.
Thank you.
My name is Ross Huback. I'm a lifelong resident of Massachusetts. I'm a licensed practicing forester here in Massachusetts. I work with landowners all over the Commonwealth. I'm here today as the current chair of the Massachusetts chapter of the Society of American Foresters, here to testify in opposition to H 897. The forests of Massachusetts provide economic, environmental, and social values. These values are not mutually exclusive of each other. They often complement each other. Massachusetts currently has nearly 600,000 acres of state-owned public forest land managed by the Department of Conservation and Recreation and the Department of Fish and Game. 50% of the 315,000 acres controlled by DCR are set aside as forest reserves, where commercial timber harvesting is not a standard practice and carbon storage is one of the primary ecosystem services. Where harvesting is allowed on the balance of state land, forests are managed for wildlife habitat, safe recreational opportunities, water protection, and wood products. Imposing broad prohibitions upon management strategies would cripple the Commonwealth's ability to respond to expanding forest health and ecological threats. Site-specific management conducted with collaborative planning allows skilled professional foresters to meet the diverse resource management objectives while adapting management strategies to changing threats. Expanded restrictions on forest management would likely exacerbate environmental concerns. As a society, we suppress natural processes. We do this in order to safeguard our property as well as our own personal safety. We suppress fires and flooding. These historical processes have occurred on our landscape for years. In their wake, they create young forests, providing a diversity in our landscape. Years of suppression have created a very homogeneous forest where our landscape is disproportionately stocked with mature forest between 70 and 120 years old. Studies have shown that young forest habitat is severely lacking from our landscape. We have species identified by the Massachusetts Audubon as being in severe decline due to lack of habitat. Species such as the eastern towhee, field sparrow, brown thrasher, New England cottontail, and eastern box turtle are just some of the species that are declining at an alarming rate. By suppressing natural processes of our forest, we are left with a responsibility to use science to provide these dynamic habitats for these wildlife species in need. Commercial timber harvesting is an important tool for professional foresters as they work to protect the health and integrity of our forests and ecosystems. These harvests provide a revenue source, funding required management, while also filling a need for local forest products. Healthy, resilient forests are critical to the future of the environment here in Massachusetts. To ensure the integrity of these forests, resource managers need to have access to all the tools available to protect these resources. To remove one of the most valuable resources available to our forest professionals would be misguided. Thank you.
John Carlton-Foss. Charlotte Burns.
I was the person, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I was the person who wrote and got through the plank of the Massachusetts Democratic Convention a few years ago about climate crisis. And we're certainly in a climate crisis now than we were then. I wanted to point out where I think we're going, at least in one dimension, and that is we are going to have to plant trees and foster forests in order to bring carbon equivalents out of the atmosphere. If we allow them to accumulate and don't pull them out using biological means, then would be what Terry Manuel at MIT has cited 300 years
Yeah, I'm Charlotte Burns, from Palmer, Massachusetts, and I'm a retired teacher, and I'm a person who loves the forest. And I'm really dismayed that by the contempt the state has shown by thumbing their noses at those of us who love the Wendell State Forest and other public lands that have been decimated by logging. There's so many who love that 80-acre Brook Road, 110-year-old oak grove, and we're willing to protest every day, to risk arrest, to sue the state to stop the logging, but you cut the trees down anyway with a court case pending to stop this. Those lovely trees were what made the Wendell State Forest so special, and it's going to take 2 lifetimes for them to grow back. We all know our planet's in serious trouble, and many believe in hospice, yet the state continues to allow the loot, plunder, and pillage of our forests despite the importance of trees to slow global warming by storing carbon, particularly the older large ones like the one in the Wendell Forest. And as, those people talked about how the loss of species because of old growth forests, but they've been logging this state, and yet nearly half of the world's species of plants and animals live in the forest, and we've lost 50% of our songbirds, 60% of our animal population, 75% of our insects, many of our plant species, mainly because of loss of woodland habitat. And there's tons of already logged areas for those other plants and animals. We see dead trees all around us, common species such as hemlocks, ash, sycamores, and thousands of oaks killed by gypsy moths. Ticks are sucking the lifeblood out of our moose and other critters, and they thrive on those skid logging roads. The current policy seems to have no appreciation for the role of older, unmolested forests. They're needed to cool our planet, to prevent flooding. They're giant sponges. They soak up the water and slowly release it into the groundwater and the air, and they clean our dirty air and feed our woodland critters by producing valuable seeds, nuts, sap, and allow edible plants to grow beneath them. There's an abundance of a biodiversity that can only be found in older forests. Deadwood, practically non-existent in newer forests, are necessary as hotels, restaurants, and nurseries for the forest restaurants. Not a scrap of wood is left by loggers to decompose into soil to generate the forest. It's too valuable for the ever-growing biomass wood pellet industry because of the misconception that burning wood is a renewable energy, even though it spews out far more CO2 than coal. Older trees, 70 years plus, are incredible carbon sinks. The Sierra Club says we need to stop thinking of wood as a sustainable fuel. They say the truth is when forests are cut and the trees are burned for fuel, carbon that was otherwise stored in the forest is emitted to the atmosphere. It can take a forest anywhere from 40 to 100 years of regrowth to reabsorb that same amount of carbon, and the science shows that our climate can't wait that long. To have any chance of avoiding catastrophic climate impacts, we must reduce emissions rapidly over the next decade and start restoring degraded forests across the world, including here in the U.S. According to the Harvard Forest, New England loses 65 acres a day, Mass being the biggest losers with 7,000 acres a year. Our lands are only 20%, our state lands are only 20% of our forests. We already give tax breaks through Chapter 61 to private landowners to thin their forests. The Save the Wendell State Forest folks tell us that we taxpayers don't even make any money off the logging of our state lands. So with broken hearts, we walk through our beloved state forest by the stumps of once majestic trees, through acres of ugly, scraggly, new growth brush and land scarred with skid roads. We have to rethink our forest management practices. We're fighting for survival now. We need to leave the forests that we depend on alone and allow them to recover. The state forests belong to all of us. Let them be.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. Any questions?
And
Sally Sutton and Jamie Levine? What's that?
Yes. Thank you so much for listening to testimony. I just want to make 2 analogies. What I care about has been spoken by other people. When we talk about 110-year-old oak trees, I'm from London, being taken down, we're talking as if those are old. Oak trees live 300, 400 years old, and as our good friend Ken Conti said, that there's a lot of 80 to 110-year-old trees still in the forest. That is comparing in human terms lifespan. That is like saying there are a lot of 20 to 30-year-olds. 110-year-old oak trees are old for us, but they are not old for the forest. So when we're talking about diversity, and we're talking about having a lot of younger trees, first of all, if you've walked in those forests, you would see that they are not being crowded out by those trees. Well, now there's none, but there were young saplings growing richly amongst the older trees. But if you were going to describe the human species and only represented 0 to 30-year-olds, that's the fair representation you'd be giving to the lifespan of trees and what a mature forest looks like. We don't know what a mature forest looks like in Massachusetts because we really don't have any. We have a few remnant old growth trees, but everything we're talking about is not old growth. It's just relative. The other analogy I would like to make is that this is like being on a ship. And we're asking you to pass a law, a ship that is out on the ocean. We're asking you to pass a law to please not allow people to take wood from the bottom of our ship and then make a little campfire to roast marshmallows on the deck. It's insane right now. Our planet is dying. So all I'm just asking is please, please, SOS, save our ship. Thank you.
That could be a song.
All sorts of